The news of the Apex Sentinel's destruction traveled across the galaxy faster than light itself. On the capital world of Zephyr Prime, Emperor Valdric the Eternal sat on his crystal throne and watched the reports with growing rage. His pale blue skin darkened to a deep purple, a sign of extreme anger among his species. For 3,000 years his family had ruled the Zephyrian Empire without question. Their bloodline was considered divine by billions of subjects across hundreds of worlds. The Apex Sentinel had been their ultimate symbol of power, a weapon so mighty that entire civilizations surrendered at the mere mention of its name. Now a single human had destroyed it with mining equipment. Prince Kael, the Emperor's eldest son, paced back and forth in the throne room. His military uniform was covered with medals from campaigns where he had crushed rebellions and conquered new worlds. But today those victories seemed meaningless. "Father, we must respond immediately," Kael said, his voice tight with controlled fury. "If word spreads that humans can destroy our greatest weapons, every slave world in the Empire will rise up against us." Emperor Valdric's 4 eyes focused on his son. "What do you suggest?" "Complete extermination. We mobilize the entire Imperial fleet and glass every human world. We turn their planets into dead rocks floating in space. Then we broadcast the destruction across the Empire, as a warning to anyone who dares challenge us." The Emperor's chief advisor, an elderly Zephyrian named Morok, stepped forward carefully. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should study how the humans accomplished this feat. If we could understand their technology—" "Silence," Prince Kael snapped. "There is nothing to learn from these primitive creatures. They got lucky once. It will not happen again." Emperor Valdric stood up from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the room. He was over 8 feet tall, with the pale blue skin and multiple eyes that marked him as pure royal blood. Ancient genetic modifications made him stronger and smarter than ordinary Zephyrians. "My son is correct," the Emperor declared. "The humans have committed an act of war against the Empire. They will pay with their entire species." Within hours, the royal extermination decree was prepared. The document was written in the ancient language of the Empire and sealed with the Emperor's personal mark. It ordered the complete destruction of humanity and authorized the use of any weapons necessary to accomplish this goal. But Prince Kael made a decision that would prove to be a terrible mistake. Instead of keeping the decree secret until their fleets were in position, he convinced his father to broadcast it across all communication channels in the galaxy. The prince wanted every alien species to see the price of defying the Empire. The message was transmitted in dozens of languages. It reached human colonies, alien trading posts, and neutral worlds throughout known space. The decree was clear and brutal in its language. Humanity would be wiped out completely because they had dared to defend themselves against Zephyrian aggression. On Earth, President Maria Rodriguez was awakened at 3 a.m. by her security chief. She was rushed to the emergency command, center deep beneath the capital city. The room was filled with military officers and government officials who had been pulled from their beds. Admiral Ben Carter, the head of Earth's defense forces, stood at the main display screen. His weathered face looked grim as he explained the situation. "Madam President, we intercepted this transmission 2 hours ago. The entire Zephyrian Empire has been ordered to mobilize against us. Based on our intelligence reports, we estimate they can field over 10,000 warships." President Rodriguez felt cold fear settle in her stomach. "How many ships do we have?" "Maybe 300 that could fight in space combat. Most of our fleet is designed for patrol duties and cargo transport." "What about Lisa Martinez's weapon? Can we build more of those quantum devices? We're trying to understand how she did it, but so far our scientists are baffled. She used mining equipment in ways that shouldn't have worked according to our physics textbooks." The president looked around the room at the faces of Earth's military and political leaders. She could see fear in their eyes, but also determination. Humanity had survived wars, plagues, and natural disasters. They would find a way to survive this too. "Get me a direct communication link to Lisa Martinez," she ordered. 20 minutes later, Lisa's face appeared on the main screen. She was still, aboard her mining ship in the asteroid field, looking tired but alert. The improvised quantum device behind her was a twisted mess of burned metal and melted wires. Ms. Martinez, I need to know if you can build more weapons like the one you used. Lisa shook her head. Madam President, I'm not sure I can even explain how it worked. I had to modify the device based on real-time readings from the alien ships. Power systems. Each Zephyrian vessel would require a different approach. But it can be done? Maybe. If we can get close enough to their ships and if we have enough time to study their systems. Lisa paused and looked directly at the camera. But I think we're asking the wrong question. What do you mean? The Zephyrians just declared war on our entire species. They're not just trying to conquer us or steal our resources. They want to kill every human being in existence because we embarrass them. This isn't about defending our colonies anymore. President Rodriguez leaned forward. Then what is it about? Survival. And if we're going to survive, we can't just play defense. We need to make them pay for this decree. The Emperor and his royal family personally ordered our extermination. Maybe it's time they faced the same threat. Admiral Carter frowned. You're talking about going on the offensive against an empire that spans half the galaxy. I'm talking about making sure that anyone who orders the genocide of humanity faces the consequences, Lisa replied. They think they're untouchable because they're royalty. They think their bloodline makes them special. Let's prove them wrong. The command center fell silent as everyone absorbed Lisa's words. She was suggesting something that had never been attempted in human history, not just fighting a defensive war, but actively hunting down the leadership of an alien empire. Prince Kale's decision to broadcast the extermination decree had backfired in ways he couldn't imagine. Instead of frightening humanity into submission, it had given them a clear target. The royal family had made this personal by putting their names on humanity's death warrant. President Rodriguez made her decision. Admiral Carter, I want you to work with Ms. Martinez on developing new weapons. Dr. Foster at the Xenobiology Institute has been studying alien technology for years. Get him involved too. What are our orders, Madam President? The Zephyrian. Royal family wants to commit genocide against humanity. I think it's time we return the favor. If they want to make this about bloodlines, then let's see how divine their blood really is when it's spilled across the stars. The meeting broke up with new purpose. Humanity was going to war, but not the kind of war the Zephyrians expected. This would be a war of survival, innovation, and revenge. The Empire had made the mistake of threatening not just human colonies, but human existence itself. Emperor Valdric's decree had been intended to show the galaxy the price of defying the Empire. Instead, it had awakened something in humanity that the aliens had never encountered before. The will to not just survive, but to ensure that those who threatened their survival would never threaten anyone again. Lisa Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead and looked at the readings on her mining console. Something was wrong with the gravity sensors today. The numbers kept jumping around like crazy. She had been working on Kepler 442b mining station for 3 years now, and the equipment never acted this strange. The asteroid field around her small ship was quiet, too quiet. Usually, space traffic controllers would be chattering on the radio about cargo runs and supply deliveries. Today, the communication channels were almost silent except for urgent military broadcasts that kept getting cut off. Lisa pushed her dark hair back and reached for her coffee mug. The liquid inside was floating in small bubbles. That was definitely not normal. Her artificial gravity generator was working fine, so what was causing this? Then she saw it. A massive shadow fell across her cockpit window. Lisa looked up and felt her heart stop. Above her, blotting out the stars, was the largest warship she had ever seen. It stretched for miles in every direction, its dark metal hull covered with weapon ports and shield generators. Strange alien symbols glowed along its sides. This is the apex sentinel of the Zephyrian Empire. A cold voice announced over all communication frequencies. All human settlements in this system have 72 hours to surrender completely. Any resistance will result in total destruction. Lisa's hands shook as she reached for her radio. Earth Defense Force, this is mining vessel Lucky Strike. Do you copy? Static filled the channel for several seconds. Then a tired voice responded. Lucky Strike, this is Commander Jake Sullivan aboard the defense platform. We copy your transmission. Commander, there's a massive alien ship in the asteroid field. It just threatened to destroy all human colonies. We know, Lisa. We're tracking it on our sensors. The thing is 15 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack a planet in half. Our entire fleet wouldn't even scratch its paint. Lisa stared at the enormous warship hanging in space above her. Its engines were so powerful that they were warping space around them. That explained the crazy gravity readings she had been getting. She had studied quantum physics at MIT before she became a minor. The knowledge was still there in her head, even though she hadn't used it for years. Looking at the sensor data, she noticed something interesting about the way the ship's fusion cores were operating. Commander Sullivan, are you still there? Yeah, Lisa, what is it? I think I might know something about this ship. Can you send me all the sensor data you have on it? Lisa, this isn't the time for curiosity. You need to get out of there right now. That thing could vaporize you without even noticing. Please, Commander, trust me on this. There was a long pause. Then data started flooding into Lisa's computer systems. She studied the readings carefully while the Apex Sentinel moved slowly through the asteroid field toward the human settlements. The ship's power signature was incredible. 6 massive fusion reactors provided energy for its weapons, shields, and engines. But something about the way they operated caught her attention. The reactors were synchronized in a way that created ripples in space-time itself. Lisa had written her master's thesis on quantum cascade effects in high-energy physics. She recognized the pattern immediately. The Sentinel's own power source was creating a resonance that made local space unstable. If someone could amplify that resonance at exactly the right frequency, it might cause the ship's quantum foundations to collapse. She looked around her small mining ship. The cargo hold was full of asteroid ore and mining equipment. The ship's computer was old but functional. Most importantly, she had several high-powered sensor arrays that she used to scan asteroids for valuable minerals. Working quickly, Lisa began connecting cables and rerouting power systems. She pulled apart her ore scanners and connected them to the ship's main power core. The work was dangerous. One wrong connection could cause her ship's reactor to explode. Hours passed while she worked. Outside, the Apex Sentinel continued moving toward the human colonies. Its weapons began charging with energy that made the nearby asteroids glow. Lisa's improvised device looked like a mess of wires and circuit boards held together with metal clamps. But the math in her head told her it should work. She would need to get very close to the alien warship and activate the device at exactly the right moment. She started her ship's engines and flew toward the Sentinel. Her tiny mining vessel was barely visible next to the massive alien dreadnought. As she approached, alien voices began talking on their communication channels. They seemed amused that such a small ship would fly toward them. The Sentinel's crew didn't even bother to target her ship. To them, she was probably just a frightened human trying to surrender. Lisa guided her ship along the Sentinel's hull until she found the section where the fusion reactors were located. The metal plating there was thicker than anywhere else, and strange energy patterns danced across its surface. Her hands were steady as she reached for the activation switch of her jury-rigged device. Everything had to be perfect. The timing, the position, the frequency of the quantum cascade. One mistake and she would just die pointlessly while the aliens continued their attack on human colonies. She thought about her parents back on Earth. She thought about the thousands of families living on human settlements throughout this system. The Zephyrians wanted to kill them all just because they considered humans to be inferior. Lisa pressed the switch. The device hummed to life and began broadcasting quantum energy directly into the Sentinel's hull. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then small cracks of light began appearing along the warship's surface. The alien voices on the radio suddenly became urgent and panicked. Alarms were blaring inside their ship as systems began failing throughout the massive vessel. The quantum cascade effect spread through the Sentinel structure like wildfire. The ship's own incredible power was turning against it, tearing apart the fundamental forces that held its atoms together. Lisa watched in amazement as the 15-kilometer warship began to dissolve. It didn't explode like she expected. Instead, it simply faded away like smoke, leaving nothing behind except empty space and scattered particles. The communication channels fell silent. Then Commander Sullivan's voice came through, filled with disbelief. "Lisa, what just happened?" "The Sentinel just disappeared from our sensors." Lisa looked at her improvised device, which was now smoking and completely burned out. She had built it from mining equipment and destroyed the most powerful warship in the galaxy. "I think I just saved humanity, Commander." Dr. Alex Foster had been waiting for this moment his entire career. For 15 years he had studied pieces of crashed Zephyrian ships and captured alien technology in his laboratory beneath the Xenobiology Institute. Most people thought his work was just academic research. Today, it would become humanity's secret weapon. President Rodriguez stood in his underground lab, watching as Dr. Foster examined blood samples under a powerful microscope. The samples had been taken from dead Zephyrian soldiers after small skirmishes. "Over the past decade, what exactly are you looking for, Doctor?" she asked. Dr. Foster adjusted the microscope settings and smiled grimly. "The royal bloodline of the Zephyrian Empire has been genetically modified for thousands of years. They've made themselves stronger, smarter, and longer-lived than ordinary Zephyrians. But those modifications also made them vulnerable in ways they never considered." He pointed to the genetic readout on his computer screen. "Every member of the royal family carries specific DNA markers that make them royalty. These markers are passed down through their bloodline and can't be removed or changed. They're incredibly proud of their pure blood. And that helps us how? I can create a biological weapon that targets only those genetic markers. It would be completely harmless to regular Zephyrians but deadly to anyone with royal DNA. We could eliminate their entire ruling class without harming their civilian population." President Rodriguez felt a chill run down her spine. "You're talking about creating a weapon that kills based on genetics." "They ordered the genocide of our entire species," Dr. Foster replied coldly. "Every human man, woman, and child is supposed to die because we defended ourselves. I think targeting their leadership is more than fair." Meanwhile, in the orbital shipyards above Earth, General Patricia Webb was overseeing the most ambitious military project in human history. Engineers were working around the clock to retrofit civilian ships with Lisa Martinez's quantum cascade technology. Lisa herself was aboard the converted cargo ship New Hope, teaching a team of physicists how to build the quantum devices. The work was dangerous and complicated. 3 engineers had already been killed in accidents when experimental devices exploded during testing. "The key is understanding that each alien ship has a different power signature," Lisa explained to the team. "We can't just build one type of weapon and expect it to work on everything. Each quantum cascade device has to be tuned specifically to its target." Captain Ryan Torres, a former cargo pilot who now commanded a squadron of converted freighters, listened carefully to her explanation. "So we need to get close enough to scan their ships before we can attack them?" "Exactly. That means we'll be fighting at point-blank range most of the time. Their weapons are designed for long-distance combat. If we can get inside their defensive perimeter, we have a chance." The first test of the new weapons came sooner than expected. A Zephyrian patrol fleet of 6 ships entered human space near the Mars colonies. They were the advanced scouts for the main invasion force, checking human defenses and preparing to establish a forward base. Captain Torres led 3 converted freighters against the alien patrol. His ships looked like ordinary cargo vessels, but they carried quantum cascade torpedoes in their holds. The plan was simple. Get close enough to scan the enemy ships, then launch the specially tuned weapons. The Zephyrians were not impressed by the approaching human vessels. Their ships were sleek military cruisers with advanced shields and powerful weapons. The idea that converted cargo ships could threaten them seemed ridiculous. That confidence lasted exactly 37 seconds. Torres's ship, the Freedom's Edge, fired its first quantum cascade torpedo at the lead Zephyrian cruiser. The weapon punched through the alien ship's shields like they didn't exist and struck the hull directly. The cascade effect spread through the ship's structure, causing it to simply disintegrate. The other human ships fired their weapons in rapid succession. Within 2 minutes, all 6 Zephyrian ships had been destroyed. Not one human vessel had been damaged. News of the victory spread quickly through both human and Zephyrian communication networks. For the first time in their history, The Empire had lost an entire patrol fleet to what they considered a primitive species. Princess Lyra, Emperor Valdric's daughter, was in her private chambers on Zephyr Prime when she received the battle reports. Unlike her brother Kyle, she had always been curious about other species and cultures. The humans' sudden military effectiveness worried her more than it angered her. She accessed classified military databases and studied the reports from the destroyed patrol fleet. The data showed that human weapons were somehow exploiting fundamental weaknesses in Zephyrian technology. Their ships were being destroyed by forces they couldn't even understand. Princess Lyra made a decision that would have shocked her family. She sent a secret message to human diplomatic channels, requesting a private meeting to discuss ending the war before it destroyed both civilizations. The message was intercepted by Prince Kale's intelligence network within hours. He burst into his sister's chambers with a squad of royal guards, his face twisted with rage. "You treacherous witch," he snarled. "You're trying to negotiate with the humans behind Father's back." "I'm trying to prevent our empire from being destroyed by a war we can't win," Lyra replied calmly. "The humans are defeating our fleets with weapons we don't understand. If we continue this path, they'll eventually reach Zephyr Prime itself. Impossible. No primitive species could threaten our homeworld. The Apex Sentinel was supposed to be indestructible too." Prince Kale's anger boiled over. He grabbed his sister by the throat and lifted her off the ground. "You're a coward and a traitor. Our bloodline has ruled this empire for 3,000 years. We don't bow to inferior species." Princess Lyra struggled to breathe as her brother's grip tightened. "The humans aren't inferior. We underestimated them and now we're paying the price." "You're paying the price," Kale corrected. He threw her to the floor and turned to his guards. "Arrest the princess for treason. Take her to the execution chamber." Within hours, Princess Lyra was dragged before her father's throne in chains. Emperor Valdric looked down at his daughter with cold disappointment. "You have betrayed your own species," he said. "You have shown weakness in the face of our enemies. The royal bloodline must be pure and strong. There is no place in it for cowards." "I'm not a coward, father. I'm trying to save our people from a war that will destroy us all. Our people need to see that even royal blood can be spilled if it becomes contaminated with weakness," the Emperor declared. "Your execution will be broadcast throughout the Empire as a warning to anyone who considers surrender." Princess Lyra's death was transmitted across every Zephyrian world. The Emperor wanted his subjects to see that even his own daughter would die rather than show weakness to humanity. But the broadcast had the opposite effect he intended. Many Zephyrians were horrified that their emperor would kill his own child to continue an apparently hopeless war. Rebellions began breaking out on worlds throughout the Empire. Some rebels even contacted human forces, offering to help fight against the royal family. Dr. Foster's biological weapon was ready for deployment. Human intelligence networks had identified the locations of dozens of royal family members throughout the galaxy. The weapon could be introduced into food supplies, water systems, or even air circulation systems. General Webb approved the first biological attacks against minor members of the royal family. Within days, reports began coming in of mysterious deaths among Zephyrian nobility. The deaths appeared to be from natural causes, but they were happening too frequently to be coincidental. Emperor Valdric began to suspect that something was wrong when his cousin Duke Theron died suddenly during a state dinner. Medical scans showed that the Duke's genetic structure had somehow been attacked at the cellular level. "It's the humans," Prince Kale told his father. "They've created some kind of weapon that targets our bloodline specifically." The Emperor felt fear for the first time in centuries. "How is that possible?" "I don't know, but we need to end this war quickly before they kill us all." But it was already too late. Human forces were advancing on multiple fronts, using their quantum cascade weapons to destroy Zephyrian fleets. The biological weapon was spreading through the royal bloodline faster than anyone could stop it. The empire that had seemed invincible just months ago was beginning to crumble. Lisa Martinez watched the reports from her command ship, feeling grim satisfaction. The Zephyrians had wanted to commit genocide against humanity. Now they were discovering what it felt like to be hunted to extinction. Colonel Steve Miller had been hunting dangerous criminals for 20 years before the war started. Now he was hunting something much more valuable: Members of the Zephyrian royal family scattered across hundreds of worlds throughout the galaxy. His team of special operations soldiers had been given a simple mission: find every prince, princess, duke, duchess, and distant cousin carrying royal blood. Kill them all. Document everything. Make sure the galaxy knew that humanity kept its promises. Miller stood in the briefing room aboard the stealth ship Ghost Runner, looking at photographs of his targets. Each face belonged to someone who had approved or supported the order to exterminate humanity. Each death would send a message that genocide had consequences. Prince Davin is our first target, Miller told his team. He's the Emperor's youngest son, currently traveling between star systems on his personal yacht. Intelligence reports say he has minimal security because he thinks he's safe in the Outer Rim territories. Sergeant Amy Johnson, Miller's second-in-command, studied the target file. The yacht has shields and weapons, but nothing that can stop our quantum cascade torpedoes. The real challenge will be getting close enough without being detected. That's why we're using the captured Zephyrian transport ship. As far as their sensors can tell, we're just another cargo vessel carrying supplies to the frontier worlds. The hunt for Prince Davin took 3 weeks. His yacht was fast and well-equipped, but the prince was overconfident. He made regular stops at entertainment stations and luxury resorts, following predictable patterns that made him easy to track. Miller's team found him at a space station orbiting a gas giant in the Kepler system. The prince was enjoying himself at an expensive casino, gambling with rare metals and exotic currencies. He had no idea that human soldiers were watching him from across the gaming floor. The attack came when Prince Davin returned to his yacht. Miller's team had planted quantum cascade charges throughout the ship's engine compartment. When the yacht tried to leave the station, the charges activated and tore the vessel apart at the atomic level. The prince's death was recorded by the station's security cameras and broadcast across human communication networks within hours. The message was clear. The royal family could run, but they couldn't hide. Duke Moran, the Emperor's brother, died 2 weeks later when human commandos infiltrated his fortress moon. The Duke had turned an entire asteroid into a military base, complete with defensive shields and automated weapons. He thought he was completely safe behind layers of armor and energy barriers. Lieutenant Chris Parker led the assault team that penetrated the fortress. They used portable quantum cascade devices to cut through the asteroid's defenses like cutting through paper. The Duke died in his own throne room, still wearing his ceremonial armor. The biological weapon was spreading through the royal bloodline faster than anyone had expected. Dr. Foster's creation was more effective than he had hoped. Royal family members were dying on dozens of worlds, often in ways that looked like accidents or natural causes. Duchess Sarah, the Emperor's sister, collapsed during a state dinner on the capital world of Centauri 7. Medical teams tried to save her, but the weapon had attacked her DNA so thoroughly that her body simply shut down. The other dinner guests watched in horror as one of the most powerful people in the Empire died in front of them. Count Vex, a distant cousin of the Emperor, died in his sleep on the mining world of Titan's Edge. His personal doctor found him in the morning, apparently peaceful but completely dead. Tests showed that his royal genetics had been systematically destroyed during the night. Each death was carefully documented by human intelligence networks. Photos, video recordings, and medical reports were compiled into detailed files that proved the effectiveness of humanity's campaign. The files were then distributed to resistance groups throughout the Zephyrian Empire. Emperor Valdric sat in his private chambers, staring at reports of his family's deaths. In 6 months, he had lost 3 children, 2 siblings, and over 40 cousins and distant relatives. The royal bloodline that had ruled for 3,000 years was being systematically exterminated. "How many of us are left?" he asked Prince Kale, his only remaining son. "Perhaps 24 with pure royal blood," Kyle replied. "The humans seem to know exactly who carries our genetic markers. Their weapon is specifically designed to kill only us." "The irony is not lost on me," the Emperor said bitterly. "We modified our bloodline to make ourselves superior. Now those same modifications make us targets." Prince Kale paced back and forth, his anger barely controlled. "We should have killed them all immediately after the Sentinel was destroyed. Instead, we gave them time to prepare these weapons. What do our military commanders report? Our fleets are being destroyed faster than we can replace them. The humans have somehow learned to modify their quantum weapons for different types of ships. Every engagement ends with our vessels being torn apart while theirs remain untouched. On the frontier world of New Babylon, General Thane received reports that made his blood run cold. The Zephyrian officer had served the Empire faithfully for 40 years, rising through the ranks based on skill and loyalty, rather than noble birth. Now he was watching that empire collapse around him. "Sir, we've lost contact with the 7th Fleet," his aide reported. Last transmission indicated they were under attack by human forces near the Vega system. "How many ships?" "All of them, sir. 37 vessels destroyed with no survivors." General Thane stared at the tactical display showing the current state of the war. Red markers indicated destroyed Zephyrian fleets. Green markers showed advancing human forces. The pattern was clear. Humanity was winning. The humans aren't just defending their territory anymore, he realized. They're actively conquering ours. The biological weapon continued its deadly work. Princess Nara, the Emperor's niece, died while reviewing troops on the military world of Chronospace. She simply collapsed during the ceremony, her royal genetics destroyed by Dr. Foster's creation. Duke Raven, commander of the Imperial Guard, died in his own headquarters on Zephyr Prime. His death was particularly shocking because it happened in the most secure building on the Empire's capital world. If the humans could reach him there, no member of the royal family was safe anywhere. The weapon's effectiveness went beyond just killing royalty. Its psychological impact was devastating. Ordinary Zephyrians began to question whether their rulers were truly divine if they could be killed so easily by human weapons. Rebellions broke out on 17 worlds in a single week. On some planets, local populations actually welcomed advancing human forces as liberators from imperial rule. The Empire's own subjects were turning against the royal family that had condemned them to an unwinnable war. Colonel Miller's teams continued their hunting operations throughout the galaxy. Each successful mission was broadcast to both human and Zephyrian populations. The message was always the same. The royal family that had ordered humanity's extinction was facing the same fate. Prince Kale tried to rally the remaining Imperial forces, but his commanders were losing faith. Too many fleets had been destroyed by human weapons they couldn't understand or counter. Too many worlds had fallen to human forces that seemed to appear out of nowhere. "We need to consider surrender," General Thane told the prince during a private meeting. "Our empire is being destroyed piece by piece. If we continue fighting, there may be nothing left to save." "We are the divine rulers of this galaxy," Prince Kale replied. "We do not surrender to inferior species." "With respect, Your Highness, the humans have proven they are not inferior. They have weapons we cannot match and strategies we cannot predict. Continuing this war will only result in more death." But Prince Kale was too proud to admit defeat. Like his father, he believed that royal blood made him superior to all other forms of life. The idea that humans could defeat the Zephyrian Empire was impossible for him to accept. The royal hunt continued across the galaxy. Each day brought news of more dead princes, dukes, and nobles. The biological weapons spread through their bloodline like a plague, killing anyone who carried the genetic markers of royalty. Emperor Valdric realized that his family's reign was ending. The empire they had built over 3 millennia was crumbling, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The humans had turned the Zephyrians' own pride and genetic superiority against them. The last surviving members of the royal family were running out of places to hide. Soon the emperor knew the humans would come for him too. 2 years after Lisa Martinez destroyed the Apex Sentinel, the Zephyrian Empire had collapsed completely. Rebellions raged across hundreds of worlds. Imperial fleets had been shattered by human quantum weapons. The royal bloodline had been hunted, almost to extinction by Colonel Miller's teams and Dr. Foster's biological weapon. Emperor Valdric the Eternal sat alone in his throne room on Zephyr Prime, staring at the empty seats where his advisors once stood. Most had fled or died. Some had joined the rebels fighting against him. Only Prince Kale remained, commanding the last few loyal troops defending the imperial palace. Outside the palace walls, angry crowds of Zephyrians demanded the emperor's surrender. They had watched their empire crumble because of his decision to wage war against humanity. Billions had died in a conflict that should never have started. The humans have surrounded our planet, Prince Kael reported to his father. Their fleet arrived 3 hours ago. They're demanding that we surrender you to them for trial. Emperor Valdric laughed bitterly. Trial? They plan to execute me like a common criminal. We still have the palace defenses. We can hold them off. For weeks. Maybe months. And then what? Our empire is gone, my son. Our bloodline is nearly extinct. What exactly are we defending? Prince Kael's eyes blazed with fanatical determination. Our honor. Our divine right to rule. 3,000 years of imperial tradition. But the emperor was no longer listening. He was thinking about Princess Lyra, the daughter he had executed for trying to make peace with the humans. She had been right about everything. The war was unwinnable, the humans were not inferior. His pride had destroyed everything their family had built. Admiral Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Humanity's Resolve, looking down at Zephyr Prime through the main viewport. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and white clouds that reminded her of Earth. It was hard to believe that the order for humanity's extinction had come from this peaceful-looking world. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface, her communications officer reported. Put it through. General Thane's face appeared on the main screen. The Zephyrian officer looked tired and defeated, but also relieved that the war was finally ending. Admiral Martinez, this is General Thane of the Imperial Defense Force. I am prepared to surrender the capital city and turn over Emperor Valdric to your custody. My troops will not resist your landing forces. What about Prince Kael? The prince has barricaded himself in the Imperial Palace with about 200 loyal guards. He refuses to surrender and has threatened to kill his father rather than let you take him alive. Lisa nodded grimly. Understood, General. Begin evacuating civilians from the palace area. We'll handle the prince. Captain Laura Mitchell led the assault team that landed outside the Imperial Palace. Her soldiers were armed with portable quantum, cascade devices and protective equipment designed to counter Zephyrian weapons. They had fought across the galaxy to reach this moment. The palace was a massive structure built from crystalline materials that gleamed in the sunlight. Ancient spires reached toward the sky, covered with alien symbols that told the history of the Zephyrian Empire. Soon, that history would end. This is Captain Mitchell of the Human Liberation Force, she announced over loudspeakers. Prince Kael, you are surrounded. Surrender now and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Prince Kael's voice boomed from the palace's communication system. I am the heir to the eternal throne of Zephyr. I do not surrender to inferior creatures. Come and take me if you can. The battle for the Imperial Palace lasted 6 hours. Prince Kael's guards fought with desperate courage, but human quantum weapons cut through their defenses like they were made of paper. The crystalline walls that had protected the palace for millennia crumbled under cascade torpedo strikes. Captain Mitchell found Prince Kael in the throne room, standing over his father's body with a bloody knife in his hand. The Emperor lay dead at the base of his crystal throne, killed by his own son rather than face capture by humans. You're too late, Prince Kael snarled. I have preserved our honor. The Eternal Emperor will never bow to your kind. Your father was going to surrender, Mitchell said. He understood that the war was over. He was weak, contaminated by fear and doubt. I did what had to be done to preserve the purity of our bloodline. Prince Kael raised his knife to his own throat, but Mitchell's soldiers were faster. Stun weapons dropped him to the floor before he could complete his final act of defiance. 3 months later, Prince Kael stood trial before a joint human-Zephyrian tribunal on the neutral world of Haven Station. Representatives from dozens of alien species watched as the last member of the royal family faced judgment for ordering humanity's extermination. The evidence was overwhelming. The royal extermination decree bore the signatures of both Emperor Valdric and Prince Kale. Recordings of their planning sessions had been recovered from the Imperial archives. There was no doubt about their guilt. Lisa Martinez testified about the moment she received the decree on her mining ship. "They didn't just want to conquer us or steal our resources," she told the tribunal. "They wanted to kill every human being in existence because we had embarrassed them. That's not war. That's genocide." Dr. Foster presented evidence about the biological weapon he had created to target the royal bloodline. "I designed this weapon specifically to turn their own genetic pride against them," he explained. "They had modified their DNA to make themselves superior. I used those same modifications to make them vulnerable." Prince Kale showed no remorse during his testimony. "We are the divine rulers of this galaxy," he declared. "Inferior species exist only to serve us. The humans forgot their place, so we reminded them of it. By ordering the death of our entire species," the chief judge asked, "by doing what was necessary to preserve order in the galaxy." The tribunal deliberated for less than an hour. Prince Kale was found guilty of genocide and crimes against sentient life. The sentence was death. On the day of his execution, crowds gathered on hundreds of worlds to watch the broadcast. Humans, Zephyrians, and dozens of other alien species wanted to see the end of the bloodline that had terrorized the galaxy for 3 millennia. Prince Kale walked to the execution platform, without fear, still convinced that his royal blood made him superior to everyone watching. His last words were a curse against humanity and a promise that someday another empire would arise to put the inferior species back in their proper place. Lisa Martinez watched from the front row as the last member of the Zephyrian royal family died. She felt no joy, only grim satisfaction that justice had been served. The people who had ordered humanity's extinction had paid the ultimate price for their arrogance. In the years that followed, the former Zephyrian territories reorganized into democratic federations. Many worlds requested to join the growing Terran Commonwealth. Attracted by human ideals of equality and self-determination, the galaxy entered a new age of cooperation and mutual respect. Lisa Martinez returned to her mining ship in the asteroid field where it all began. She had been offered positions as an admiral, a government minister, even as president of the Terran Commonwealth. But she preferred the honest work of asteroid mining to the complexities of politics. Sometimes, late at night in the quiet of space, she would look at the stars and remember the day she destroyed the apex Sentinel. That single moment had changed the course of galactic history. It had proven that no empire, no matter how powerful or ancient, could survive the wrath of a species fighting for its existence. The Zephyrian Empire had learned too late that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It was their absolute refusal to accept extinction. When faced with genocide, humans had responded with a determination that surprised even themselves. The galaxy would remember the lesson for generations to come. Never threaten humanity with extermination unless you are prepared to face your own